I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey Patriot Warrior fam, I'm Face, and these are the histories that America forgot. According to Wikipedia, quote, "The Battle of New Orleans was fought on January 8, 1815, between the British Army under Major General Sir Edward Pakenham and the United States Army under Brevet Major General Andrew Jackson, roughly 5 miles southeast of the French quarter of New Orleans in the current suburb of Chalmette, Louisiana. The battle was the climax of the 5-month Gulf campaign from September 1814 to February 1815 by Britain to try to take New Orleans, West Florida, and possibly Louisiana Territory, which began at the First Battle of Fort Bowyer. Britain started the New Orleans campaign on December 14, 1814, at the Battle of Lake Bonia, and numerous skirmishes and artillery duels happened in the weeks leading up to the final battle. The battle took place 15 days after the signing of the Treaty of Ghent, which formally ended the War of 1812 on December 24, 1814, though it would not be ratified by the United States, and therefore did not take effect, until February 16, 1815, as news of the agreement had not yet reached the United States from Europe. Despite a large British advantage in numbers, training, and experience, the American forces defeated a poorly executed assault in slightly more than 30 minutes. The Americans suffered just 71 casualties, while the British suffered over 2,000, including the deaths of the commanding general, Major General Sir Edward Pakenham, and his second-in-command, Major General Samuel Gibbs. The Americans had constructed 3 lines of defense, with the forward line 4 miles south of the city. It was strongly entrenched at the Rodriguez Canal, which stretched from a swamp to the river, with a timber loopholed breastwork and earthworks for artillery. General Lambert and 2 infantry battalions totaling 1,700 soldiers disembarked and reinforced the British on January 5th. The British battle plan was for an attack against the 20-gun West Bank battery, then to turn those guns on the American line to assist the frontal attack. In the early morning of January 8th, Pakenham gave his final orders for the 2-pronged assault. Colonel William Thornton was to cross the Mississippi during the night with his force, move rapidly upriver, storm the battery commanded by Commodore Daniel Patterson, and the flank of the main American entrenchments. By Commodore Daniel Patterson on the flank of the main American entrenchments, and then open an enfilading fire on Jackson's line with the captured artillery, directly across from the earthworks, manned by the vast majority of the American troops. Keene was to lead a column along the river, and Major General Samuel Gibbs was to lead a column along the swamp. The brigade commanded by Major General John Lambert was held in reserve. The British dug a canal to enable 42 small boats to get to the river. Preparations for the attack had foundered early on January 8th, as the canal collapsed and the dam failed, leaving the sailors to drag the boats through the mud with Thornton's West Bank assault force. This left the force starting off just before daybreak, 8 hours late according to Thornton's dispatch, assessed in 2008 to be 12 hours late. The frontal attack was not postponed, however, as the British hoped that the force on the West Bank would create a diversion, even if they did not succeed in the assault. The only British success of the battle was the delayed attack on the west bank of the Mississippi River, where Thornton's brigade of the 85th Regiment of Foot and detachments from the Royal Navy and Royal Marines attacked and overwhelmed the American line. The 700 militiamen were routed. The British had the advantage of the element of surprise. The decision by General Morgan to deploy his troops in two positions a mile apart, neither defensible, was favorable for the British. Morgan's mismanagement of his Kentucky and Louisiana militiamen was an open invitation to defeat. Whilst the retreat of the militia has been criticized, such a move was no less than prudent. An inquiry found that the conduct was not reprehensible. Captain Rowland Money led the Navy detachment, and Brevet Major Thomas Adair led the Marines. Money was the captain of HMS Trave, and Adair was the commanding officer of HMS Bangor's detachment of Marines. As a consequence of the sides of the canal caving in and choking the passage that night, only enough boats got through to carry 600 men, just one-third of the intended force. Thornton did not make allowance for the current, and it carried him about 2 miles below the intended landing place. His brigade won their battle, but Thornton was badly wounded. Army casualties among the 85th Foot were 2 dead, 1 captured, and 41 wounded. The battalion reduced to 270 effectives on the right bank. Royal Navy casualties were 2 dead, Captain Rowland Money and 18 seamen wounded. Royal Marine casualties were 2 dead, with 3 officers, 1 sergeant, and 12 other ranks wounded. By contrast, the defenders' casualties were 2 dead, 11 wounded, and 19 missing. Both Jackson and Commodore Patterson reported that the retreating forces had spiked their cannon, leaving no guns to turn on the Americans' main defense line. Major Mitchell's diary, however, claims that he had, quote, commenced cleaning enemy guns to form a battery to enfilade their lines on the left bank, end quote. General Lambert ordered his chief of artillery, Colonel Alexander Dixon, to assess the position. Dixon reported back that no fewer than 2,000 men would be required to hold the position. Lambert issued orders to withdraw after the defeat of their main army on the east bank and retreated, taking a few American prisoners and cannon with them. The Americans were so dismayed by the loss of this battery, which would be capable of inflicting much damage on the lines when the attack was renewed, that they were preparing to abandon the town when they received news that the British were withdrawing, according to one British regimental historian. This success being described as a, quote, brilliant exploit by the British and a disgraceful exhibition of General Morgan's leadership by the Americans, had no effect on the final outcome of the battle. The main attack began in darkness and a heavy fog, but the fog lifted as the British neared the main American line, exposing them to withering artillery fire. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Mullins, the British commander of the 44th Regiment of Foot, had forgotten the ladders and fascines needed to cross the 8-foot deep and 15-foot wide canal and scale the earthworks, and the British forces fell into confusion, thrown into disorder by the flight of the advanced guard. Most of the senior officers were killed or wounded, including Major General Samuel Gibbs, who was killed leading the main attack column on the right, and Colonel Rennie, who led a detachment on the left by the river. The Highlanders of the 93rd Regiment of Foot were ordered to leave Keene's assault column advancing along the river, possibly because of Thornton's delay in crossing the river and the artillery fire that might hit them, and to move across the open field to join the main force on the right. Keene fell wounded as he crossed the field with the 93rd. Rennie's men managed to attack and overrun an American advance redoubt next to the river, but they could neither hold the position nor successfully storm the main American line behind it without reinforcements. Within a few minutes, the American 7th Infantry arrived, moved forward, and fired upon the British in the captured redoubt. Within half an hour, Rennie and nearly all of his men were dead. In the main attack on the right, the British infantrymen flung themselves to the ground, huddled in the canal and were mowed down by a combination of musket fire and grape shot from the Americans. A handful made it to the top of the parapet on the right, but they were killed or captured. The riflemen of the 95th Regiment of Foot had advanced in open skirmish order ahead of the main assault force and were concealed in the ditch below the parapet, unable to advance further without support. The two large main assaults were repulsed. Pakenham and Gibbs were fatally wounded while on horseback by grape shot fired from the earthworks. Major Wilkinson of the 21st Regiment of Foot reformed his lines and made a third assault. They were able to reach the entrenchments and attempted to scale them. Wilkinson made it to the top before being shot. The Americans were amazed at his bravery and carried him behind the rampart. The British soldiers stood out in the open and were shot apart with grape shot from Line Jackson, including the 93rd Highlanders, having no orders to advance further or retreat. General Lambert was in the reserve and took command. He gave the order for his reserve to advance and ordered the withdrawal of the army. The reserve was used to cover the retreat of what was left of the British army in the field. The inability of Thornton's troops to have taken the right bank at night in advance of the main assault meant that the British were enfiladed by the American batteries. It has been observed that Keene's failure to have taken the Chef-Montour road was compounded when the aggressively natured Pakenham went ahead and launched a frontal assault before the vital flank operation on the other bank of the river had been completed, at a cost of over 2,000 casualties.
Yeah, let's go! I'm unstoppable, do the impossible. I'm irresponsible, yet I'm phenomenal. I got an arsenal, I'm dropping bombs, you know. No, I'm not stopping, no. Conquer the obstacle. To the top, here I go, think I'm chosen to be the king of rock, think the people have spoken. I can hear the tick-tock of the clock, I'm in motion. So now I'm gonna pop, causing all this commotion.
Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable. Yeah, ready to go, man, lock and load. That's right, I swear to God that I could drop you, bro. Yeah, I got a shot and I ain't stopping, no. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable. Yeah, let's go. I don't care what they all say. That's right, I'ma do this thing my way. Let's go. Been grinding hard on it all day. Okay, we work hard, then we all play. Yeah, I'm addicted to the grind, man. That's right, so I refuse to waste time, man. Yeah, one day it all will be fine, man. Let's go. Gotta commit to the climb. You know we're back with the Guinness, setting records every minute, every track. In addiction to the fact that we're winning, still we lack something's missing. Need a track that is hitting, making racks, making millions.
Oh, yeah.
If you ask, that's the mission.
I don't waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating.
Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable. Yeah.